is Jason Harris. Jason is a senior history education major. He's from Elkhorn City, Kentucky. And Jason is so uh, creative and energetic that during a pandemic, he started a food delivery company called Peanuts Food Delivery. Outside of rooting for the Dallas Cowboys, I don't see any other faults in Jason. And he's going to share a little bit about how studying and pursuing his degree has really helped in his road of recovery. Jason, I can't tell you how much we are proud of you and how much the University of Pikeville just really looks to you as a model of one of our great students. So we appreciate you, Jason. The floor is yours.
Okay, so can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
Oh, I thought I turned the video on.
Now you're there. There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name's Jason Harris, and I'm a student at UPike, and I'm also an addict in recovery. I've been clean from all mind or mood altering substances for almost 10 years now. First, I want to take a moment to thank Rob for asking me to share with you guys this morning. And also, I just want to thank all of you guys that are here for your time. I'm not here to tell you, I'm not here with you today to tell my personal story in great detail, because instead, I am here as a representative of the anonymous addict. The reason for this is because the disease of addiction does not discriminate. It does not care how old you are, what ethnicity you are, what your socioeconomic background is, your race, or your creed. It is only here to destroy you. It's strange how the disease chooses its victims. Like a tornado, it can go down the street, destroying one house and leaving others untouched. Some people, I believe, do develop this disease through drug use, while others are genetically predetermined to have it. Some that suffer from the disease of addiction do not even use drugs. This is because addiction is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder. The reason I feel that society has trouble helping many addicts is because we've been taught that an addict is someone that lives on the streets, uses drugs intravenously, and sells their bodies to get more. When in reality, an addict can be your college professor, the lady that works at your local bank, even a member of your family, maybe even you. You might not even know it. My goal is to help break the stigma of addiction by helping others to see that it's not that we are not moral outcasts, but rather just sick people that need help. Addiction is not a moral dilemma. I have a theory that I call the two trains theory. Two things have to happen almost simultaneously, like two trains passing in the night, for an addict to get help. And one is the addict needs to be willing to accept help, and two, help needs to be available immediately. The disease is very cunning. It does not come at us in a scary demonic voice. It comes to us in our own voice. It tells us that we don't need help. Therefore, we cannot allow time to pass without offering help when an addict is ready. I started using drugs around my freshman year of high school, and I continued to use more increasingly until I gave up on all my dreams. Eventually, I was arrested, and my future seemed very bleak. Luckily for me, I found a 12-step program, and I turned my life around. So after a decade hiatus, I returned to school, and I will graduate this May with a bachelor's in secondary education. So I'm living my dreams to become a high school history teacher. But more importantly, high school is when I went down the wrong road. So I want to be there to offer help to kids so that maybe they don't have to make some of the same mistakes that I did. But I know that help cannot be forced on someone. So this is the real reason that I've agreed to speak today. I'm issuing a call to action to everyone on this call right now. I want to urge you to include addiction hotline numbers in all of your syllabi. You can easily find the national hotlines for Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous and treatment centers online, but I would encourage you to do some research and find some local numbers to include as well. Students most likely will be afraid or even embarrassed to come directly to you for help, and they may deny it if you were to approach them. But at a moment of desperation, they might just use one of those numbers, and it could save their life and countless others. Most importantly, we need to create an atmosphere of understanding and free of judgment on our campuses so people know that help is available. I'm going to be honest. Recovery has allowed me to return to school and fulfill my dreams, but school by itself does not keep me clean. But it does give me the motivation, and it has provided me opportunity to help others and make my life worth living. Um, so that's really all I came to say today. I hope that I fulfilled what you was wanting from me, Rob. And just want to thank all you guys again, and go Bears.
Jason, before you go, I know that there may be some questions that panelists have, but I do have a question. Can you give us an example of maybe some way that a university or a professor has supported you on your journey? You talked about, which I thought was really, really helpful. You mentioned the idea of in the syllabus already putting out there those resources, in which in a follow-up email to everybody who's participated today, we'll send you an example of a syllabus statement about supporting people in recovery or about addiction support. But can you think of an example of something that's helpful for you, Jason, or was helpful for others that you know?
Well, you know, we were allowed to use the chapel for years to have a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and we used, honestly, if I mean, you probably remember we had that step retreat where we were given access to the auditorium and even some of the more technologically advanced classrooms, and so the university has always supported us, and having NA meetings and stuff like that. Um,
So the utilization of space on campus, seeing it as a part of a program on campus. Okay, great.
well, what I was saying about the stigma a minute ago, most of the time, the only place that you can find an NA or an AA meeting is in the basement of a church somewhere, and that's because there's a stigma attached to addiction, so people don't want to allow them to use their spaces and stuff for meetings. And you know NA, for example, I can just speak for Narcotics Anonymous. They are fully self-supporting. They're not allowed to take any kind of funding or anything like that, so everything's paid for by passing a basket at the end of the meeting. And so it's not like they really have a lot of funds to rent places. I mean, they have to pay some form of rent, but like I think with the chapel, I think I paid you like $10 a month or something like that. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just allowing addicts and alcoholics to have space for meetings is. But what I said when I was talking there, just creating an atmosphere. And I'll give a good example. You can look at it the same way you would today with racism. Like, if you were to hear someone making racist comments in your classroom, you're gonna say something. and and I feel it should be the same when someone is spouting misinformation about addiction. Like, I have overheard people saying negative things about addicts and stuff, and if there was an addict in that room, then they're surely not going to come forward and be like, "Hey, I need help. I'm an addict too." because they're being taught that it's like, you know, something bad or something unacceptable. And so I think that's the main thing, is just creating almost like a campaign of understanding and on the campus, to where, like, it's, I mean, it's very similar to, like, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of getting off out in the weeds here, but like, like, people just have to know it's okay to ask for help, and that they're not going to be judged and shunned because they're coming out saying, hey, I have a problem. And another thing is what I said before. We have this vision of addicts being like living under bridges and stuff like that, and obtaining their drugs illegally. But the majority, I would say today, of addicts, not the majority, but a good percentage, probably obtain their drugs legally, like through prescriptions, like over prescriptions. There's countless stories of people that, got injured playing sports, or got in a car wreck and started getting written, opiates, and then, what, didn't even know the dangers of it. And then next thing you know, they're addicted, you know. So we can't, like I said, it's not a moral dilemma. It's not hopeless. For a long time, as you probably know the history back, you know, 70, 80 years ago, they would just lock them into an asylum, like they thought that they were hopeless. But today we know that addiction is treatable, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. A couple ideas from our attendees. The first one was a great idea about not only putting information in a syllabus, but really for professors to take on the idea of ally training, right? Recovery ally training, which is such a great resource. Also, at the University of Michigan, they have a group called a Collegiate Recovery Program. It's just for people who are struggling with addiction. But we do have a question, Jason. Do you think a first step can be, or maybe should be, a meeting to address the stigma that, particularly like terms that are like wildly used about, people who are struggling with addiction? Do you think that would be a helpful thing?
I think that we should approach it like we do any other mental illness, because that's basically what it is. It's a mental illness. It's obsessive compulsive. It's, instead of touching the door handle 16 times, like, we would have to use drugs just to feel normal. And like, it wasn't even for, especially for me toward the end, it wasn't even about getting high. It was just being able to function. So that's the first thing, is learning how to live life without drugs and learning how to function. So I definitely think that it would be beneficial for the faculty. Like, you remember, the one time you had me come speak, and then you had Will come speak on different issues. And I think something like that, being, introduced into the curriculum, maybe, and especially just having yearly, or maybe biannually meetings, just discussing that stuff, and do a Q&A with the professors, and ask them. The thing is, like, it's hard for a non-addict to be able to really spot an addict. um it's I mean, it's easy to spot the guy that's nodded out at the at his desk or whatever, or the guy that you see in the police blotter or whatever. But it's harder to understand, to spot the subtle things that addicts do, because in a lot of cases we're dealing with younger, generation that's, their using may not have progressed as much yet. But and I think that if we can get it early, then maybe we have more of a chance to help. But I definitely think that I mean, it couldn't hurt to have a meeting at the beginning of every semester or every school year or whatever, and just have maybe some people come in and help teach you about some of the warning signs. But here's the crazy thing: like, even if you do spot it, that doesn't, like, a lot of times approaching them, they're going to deny it, or they're going to, like, feel ashamed or embarrassed or something like that. That's why I feel like the best course of action is to work on that culture and to make it people realize it's okay to admit that you have a problem, and then secondly to provide all the resources. That way, like I said, when I was talking there, in a moment of desperation, maybe in the middle of the night or something, they come to the realization that they have a problem, and they decide, maybe I should this phone give this phone number a call and see what they're about. So yeah, I think that the main thing is just changing that perspective that it's, that these are just bad people, and look at it more like these are sick people, you know.
Well, that's really helpful, Jason. As you talked about, even a simple thing like having a panel conversation for a faculty training where, or a Q&A, very simple things. I know another example that people used on Methodist University's campus in Fayetteville, North Carolina. There's a Roaring for Recovery, all collegiate program where people who are seeking to make positive change gather together. But there's a question about younger college students as opposed to older, maybe non-traditional students. Do you feel like there's a stigma with older non-traditional students who are in recovery or seeking recovery?
I Well, Zane, that a friend of mine, that he graduated from the university, and he's in recovery, and I'm in recovery. I have other friends, and I'll be honest, like, I have gotten nothing but support. Like, I've never felt, um I mean, I'm just speaking for UPike, but I've never felt shunned or embarrassed or anything like that. And all of my friends, I think that I could speak for them to say that we've gotten nothing but support. We've never felt any kind of stigma. And like, most of us, like I said, I was probably 14, 15 years old when I started using. So, like, I've always taken on, like, the big brother approach, because I'm, like, 13, 14 years older than so I'm in the education program, and I'm 13, 14 years older than all of my classmates, and I've kind of taken on that big brother mentality, and I've gotten nothing but support at UPike, and I've never felt like ashamed or afraid to tell my story. I remember my first day at UPike, like the first day of class, when they asked you to kind of, like, tell about yourself or whatever. I told a condensed version of my story, So, and I've never had any negative feedback because of it.
Well, that's really great to hear. Jason, we really appreciate your time and for you sharing a little bit about your story and just being present with us today. And good luck on your studies the rest of the semester. And I'm so thankful that you're going to be in the classroom really helping young people on their journey.